What's up, everyone? It's Professor G again. Today we're going to cover what's the most affordable way to get a bachelor's degree. I get this question a lot. Nowadays people are just trying to finish a degree, so they're not really too concerned on like I want it from this university or that university. So I get this question a lot. Today I'm going to break it down. Here in California, there's a lot of ways to do that bachelor's degree, and I'm going to show you the most affordable way. Now, some of the things that you have to consider when you're doing this kind of thing, you're planning your higher education, that kind of stuff, is you can't chicken out because of the prices. Okay, the prices are mind-boggling. I remember the first time when I was in high school, I saw how much college costs. I was like, hell no, this is too expensive, and I almost wrote myself off immediately when I saw that kind of thing. So first things first, do not let the prices in this presentation scare you away from pursuing your own academic endeavors. So the second thing is financial aid and support programs. There are tons of them, so do not apply on TECO. We're going to try and tell you everything you're eligible for. As long as you complete those profile of yours and use our tools, we'll be able to then tell you what you're eligible for and what you're not. So our goal is to make sure we try and get you out as quickly and affordably as possible. Don't forget, we have a massive Techo Tips library. I pulled together a ton of counselors, a ton of great solid people that give a crap about you finishing school affordably. So they drop their knowledge on our Techo Tips library. So please feel free to explore that at your leisure. Now, let's get started. Let me tell you about what is the quickest way and the most affordable way for you to get a bachelor's degree. Okay. So first things first, the cost of education is different for everybody. I don't care what somebody tells you. If they put a price on there, that price is kind of the average price. The price, it flexes. Why? Because in California, the public school system, we want you to be a California resident. When you're a California resident, you pay lower than if you were not a California resident. And check out our podcast and our video on what is California residency, so you have a better idea of that. If you were if you've been in California all your life, you don't have to worry about California residency. You're a California resident. But for those of you who've only been here a year or less, we have to double check that you're a California resident so we can try and get you the best deal for your higher education. Another thing is undocumented students, right? We have laws here in California where if an undocumented student meets what we call AB 540 criteria, then we're going to treat them like if they were a California resident. So then they're going to be able to pay in-state tuition, which is the most affordable tuition at our public colleges and universities here in Cali. So that rule in particular there is for really just for the undocumented student population. And then the last one, it varies because some students are part-time, some students are full-time, some students mix it up. I know I tried to go full-time most of my academic career, but there was a couple times where I couldn't go full-time. I had to go work and make some money and pay the rent, and then finally, go back to school. That was just the way it was. There was no extra cash, and so it really depends. Your length in school will depend on whether you're full-time or part-time, how many years you're studying, etc. And it could add to the cost. So we're going to make some assumptions in this presentation. So, the first couple assumptions is that you're a California resident. Second couple assumptions is that you are going to be going full-time, and I mean like 12 to 15 units, and really averaging 15 units a semester to get through the system. So first things first, what is a bachelor's degree? Well, a bachelor's degree is a 4-year college degree. But what it really means is that you finished 120 units of semester units or over 150 quarter units. And again, I don't want to get into those nitty-gritty details. It doesn't matter if you're going to a quarter school or a semester school. You end up graduating at the same time. They just use different ways of measuring how many units you have. So most schools in California are semester schools. So I'm going to default to that. Don't get all butthurt if you're a quarter school. It works out being the same. You can't get out any sooner than somebody else because you went to one of those schools. So 120 semester units. That basically means that, when you were in high school, right, you did 4 years. You did freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, right? And you kind of racked up like 200 and something credits. Every school is different, but it's just over 200 credits that you have to achieve in order to graduate from high school. Well, college is the same thing. There's 4 years in college, right? There's freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. And so When you go after a bachelor's degree, you're going to have to finish 4 years, and you had to really finish 120 units. So think of it that way: is I had to finish 120 units to get a bachelor's degree. So the faster I finish the 120 units, the faster I get my bachelor's degree, or the slower, right? So, like for example, in my case, I took 5 years for my bachelor's degree. In my wife's case, she took 6 years for her bachelor's degree. In my brother's case, he took 10 years for his bachelor's degree. It doesn't matter how long it takes you, but you have to understand that the longer it takes you, the more it costs, because you're still paying enrollment and tuition and all that other stuff. So try to do it as quickly as you're able to, right? At the end of those 120 units, or 4 years, then you get a BA or a BS. Now, what does that mean? That's your bachelor's degree. So in my case, I have a BA in Chicano Latino Studies from Sonoma State University. So that's the university where I finished my 4th year, my 120 units, and then they handed me that bachelor's degree, and then I went on after that. But the thing is, that's like the first major hurdle. Most of the population doesn't have a bachelor's degree. I think for Latinos, only about 15% of the population has a bachelor's degree. Probably even less. But so we want to make sure we try to get you to that level if we can as well. Now, there's other names for this, right? There's baccalaureate degree, okay, bachelor's degree, 4-year degree, and then in Spanish, la licenciatura. Right, so if you're a you have a licenciatura universitaria. That means you have a university bachelor's degree, that kind of stuff. So basically, that's what a bachelor's degree is, and I want you to think about it in the terms of units, because if you think of it in units, if you take longer than if you're taking less units to finish the 120 over time, you'll start to see that that's what takes you, an extra year or two or more to finish a bachelor's degree. So you also have to understand that there's 3 public school systems in California, right? You have your big system of universities, the University of California, which is Tier 1 research institutions. And so there's 10 of those schools up and down the coast. There are admissions you can get in as a freshman straight out of high school. You can transfer in from a community college. Those are the only 2 ways to get into the university. So in my case, I did terrible in high school, so I didn't get a chance to go in first year. I would have done the 3rd-year transfer program through a California community college, and that's just the 2 different ways that you can get in. There's about 250,000 students, a little less than that, in the system in California at any given time, studying to complete a bachelor's degree in something, whether it's biology, whether it's chemistry, mathematics, art history, English, doesn't matter, whatever. Those are about 250,000 students going in that system. Now, the other university system is the California State University system. So these are separate university systems. They do basically the same thing. I don't want to get all into deep of what the differences are, because there's really more. They're more alike than different nowadays. So the California State University system is a 23 campus system. It is the more affordable of the 2 systems. Same admissions kind of policies. You can get in your first year straight out of high school if you qualify. You did great in high school, or you can come in through a community college by finishing the community college requirements and then entering that way. Much bigger system, the CSU, 500,000 students or so, just under that in the state of California at any given time studying to finish their bachelor's degrees. And then finally, you have the monster California Community College system. I mean, this is the largest system of higher education in the United States. We have 116 colleges, and they're all pretty much the same. The real only difference is the size. The bigger the college, the more majors; the smaller the college, the less majors. But everything else is the same. So you can go to 1, you can go to 2, you can go to 3, you can go to 20 if you want, as long as you're finishing the right units, those 120, to then transfer into university to complete the bachelor's degree. So the community college is kind of like a stepping stone to the university, and I'll show you that what that looks like in just a second. So what is the cost? So remember, it varies, right? So I want to standardize it. Let's say the cost for 1 year of tuition. How much money does it cost to sign up for classes, etc.? And again, remember the disclaimer: don't let these numbers scare you, because trust me, I was broke as shit when I went to college. I had no money. I couldn't even afford to really fix up my car to make it reliable so I can get to school and stuff. So And I went to college, right? Because there's, financial aid and stuff like that. So don't let these numbers scare you. We're going to teach you more about financial aid and all the different options for the financial aid to pay for everything, and you don't have to. So for 1 year of going to school, right? For if you were paying out of your pocket to go to a University of California, right? One of those 10 top schools, UCLA, UC Davis, just to sign up for classes in 1 year, about 30 units worth of classes, it's going to be about $14,000 a year. And so the UC system is usually on a quarter system, and they'll have like a fall, winter, spring quarter, and they'll break up the 14 grand into those three, right? So you'll pay a third of it in the fall, a third of it in the winter, and a third of it in the spring. And if you choose to do summer classes, they'll charge you a little bit more, etc. But in a nutshell, it's about 14 grand a year to finish 30 units towards a bachelor's degree at a UC. Okay? Now let's go to the next university system, the CSU. It's less than half. It's about $6,000 a year to finish 30 units at a CSU. So if I'm a Chicano Studies major first year, and my cousin's and I'm at a UC, and my cousin's a Chicano Studies major first year at a CSU, well, he paid 6 grand and I paid 14 grand. It's a different experience because they're different institutions, right? They look different, they act different, they behave different, but it's basically the same classes because we're gonna get the same degree at the end. And so, a CSU is the more affordable system. That's the largest system, the 23 school system. That's where I got my bachelor's degree and my master's degree. I went straight CSU, because again, affordability, and then there's lots of them. I could pick and choose which ones I want to go to and live where I wanted to in California. And then you have your California community colleges, and I mean, check that out, the price, right? $1,400 a year for 30 units. Right, so the California Community College, by far, even if you had to pay, it is way more affordable. It is 10 times more affordable than the UC system, right? UC system, 14 grand. California Community College, 1,400. Right? CSU system, 6 grand. California Community College, 1,400. And that's for the same classes your first year at whatever one of these systems you choose to go to. Is the experience at the school going to be different? Yes. Is one better than the other? It depends on the person. You know what I mean? If you're into this kind of stuff, then you're going to have a great time there. If you're not into that kind of stuff, you're not going to have a great time there. So think of it that way. If you're thinking about just saving a ton of money, it's pretty blatantly obvious where you need to start. Now, let's compare them, right? So I had a bunch of friends who went straight to a UC, blah 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 blah, and great for them. They were paying 14 grand, for 4 years, right? So their bachelor's degree ended up costing them at minimum $56,000. And remember, this is only tuition. This does not include living on campus, does not include your food, does not include textbooks, does not include your living expenses, does not include nothing else except for tuition. Now, the CSU system, right? So I'm using an example here. Let's say we're both going after bachelor's degrees in communications. A bachelor's degree in communications is a bachelor's degree in communication. It does not freaking matter where the hell it's from. It's a bachelor's degree in communications. Okay, it's the same damn thing, except you're paying differently. Okay, you go to a CSU for the same degree, you're going to pay about $24,000 a year for the 4 years, right? About 6 grand a year. That would technically come out of your pocket. Now, remember, that's if you went in as a freshman. If you did all the great things in high school, you got in, la la la, and you went for 4 years, that's how much it's going to cost. If you take an extra year, they're going to charge you an extra year, and the year is 14 grand for the UC and 6 grand for the CSU. The other option is this. You go to community college first. You go to community college first for those first 2 years, which is basically the same as the CSU and UC. But now you're only getting charged $1,400 per semester. Per year, sorry. You're getting only charged $1,400 per year. You then do what's called a transfer guarantee program, right? Keep your grades up, that kind of stuff at the community college. When you go to community college, it erases your high school. So that's the magic, right? That's why I went to community college, because my high school, I was getting suspended. We're throwing down, dude. We didn't give a crap. And so la cosa es, no one really cared for us. So we revolted, right? Me and my friends, none of us were on track to go to university, right? We were tracked to go either into the fields or into prison. That's how we were tracked. So I realized that as a young guy, and I said, "Ni mais, they're not going to send me there. I'm going to do something different." So I realized I can go to community college. Anyone can go to community college. I can do my 60 units. There's 30 units my first year, 30 units my second year. That erased my high school. So all the F's and D's and, desmadre in high school is gone, because the university now can only judge you off the community college record. And I was doing cool in the community college. It's different because you're adults. You behave differently, and those who want more can do more. And I had a chance to do more, and so I then transferred right to a university. And so in this example, you'll go to a community college for 2 years. You then transfer to, say, a UC, and then you're paying the UC fees for year 3, year 4, which would then lower the cost, right? The first example shows if you went to straight UC. The third example shows if you went to community college and then a UC. Same degree, same potential, University of California. You just saved a ton of money. Now, the last example here is very similar. You go to community college for the first 2 years, complete your 60 units, and then you transfer to a CSU. Okay, which is the most affordable of the two public university systems. Well, now your bachelor's degree is 15 grand, right? And so, when you when you start thinking about it, like, someone that goes straight into the university is automatically going to be paying way more than someone who chooses to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to start over here first for the first couple of years to kind of really get into it and feel it out, and even kind of confirm that may be what I want to study, right? My major, right? That's a good way to test out whether that's what you want to be doing for the rest of your life, right? Or not the rest of your life, but the rest of your education, is to go to a community college where it's more affordable, and then decide to make that leap to the university so that you enter the university in year 3 as opposed to year 1, and that's what ends up saving you quite a bit of money. So at the end here, as a wrap up, what is the most affordable way to get a bachelor's degree? The answer is you start at a California community college. You do 2 years there, which is about 60 units, 30 units a year. You knock out 60 units of the 120 units that I started with earlier, right? And then you go to a CSU, a California State University, there's 23 in California. And you do another 60 units. So the community college 60 units and the CSU 60 units give you your 120 units, all for under 15 grand. And that is the best price you can get. But remember, don't worry about the 15 grand, because there's financial aid, there's support services programs, there's all this other stuff we're going to teach you on Techo and our Techo tips that is going to get you to understand how to get most of that paid for. Okay, and so keep logging in your techguide.com. As we expand and grow our company, we're going to make sure we're going to put in almost every California community college that we can get our hands on into the system, as well as CSUs and UCs, so that when you use our tools, you'll be able to transfer to those institutions for that bachelor's degree at even a better price than what I just showed you. So with that being said, my name is Professor G. Tune into our other podcasts, and make sure you check your notifications, because we don't send junk, right? We send things that's important. We send things to make sure that we can get you out of college the quickest and most affordable way possible. We promise you that. Professor G, out.